Good evening and welcome to An Outside View. I'm your host, Dick Sicaro, and joining me tonight is Ron Matta, my co-host. Ron, how you doing?
I'm doing super.
And tonight we have some special guests with us. We're happy to have Jacob L. Taggart Jr., candidate for the mayor of the city, Brockton, and we have some members of Team Taggart. I believe we have your legal advisor, attorney Jeanie Holmes, and we also have your financial advisor, Milton Strumpf. So, welcome to An Outside View. Our pleasure to have you on, and we wish you the best of luck in your mayoral campaign. And you were one of the first candidates to actually gather your signatures and have them certified and returned back to the register of voters.
Sir. We were the first to announce that we were running for mayor.
Okay.
And we were the first to get our signatures and certify them at City Hall.
All right, so the hat trick.
Yes, sir. Bold moves.
All right, now I'm looking at your flyer here. Vote Jacob L. Taggart Jr. for mayor. Commitment to public safety. Build unity in the community, which is your slogan.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't take a copper to build a city, but a
Takes
community.
a community to
I
build
like
a city.
that.
Excellent.
And recruit appropriate businesses to create jobs, establish transparency in City Hall, commit to education and youth programs. And on the back, it has a beautiful picture of your lovely family, and it has some highlights in your background. So why don't you take a few minutes to explain to the viewers a little bit about your background. Then we'll get into some specific items.
Okay. I'm a lifelong resident of Brockton. I've been here 39 years. I'm getting old. 39 years lifelong resident. My wife, my two kids are here. You know, we're raising our kids in Brockton. I love this city absolutely from the bottom of my heart. Love this city of Brockton. It means a lot to me. It's, you know, the place that brought my parents together. My parents are no longer alive. They both passed from cancer. But this city, they've always instilled in me, you know, to care about people, to fight for what you believe in. And, you know, just if you believe in something, you have to stand up for it. And I believe in Brockton. And we announced, after long conversations with my wife and my kids, about the direction that we see Brockton going. And I don't feel, contrary to some ads that are out there, Brockton's not going in the right direction. Brockton's not moving forward. Brockton's moving in a direction that's not right for everyone. And you know, our city leaders need to be people of character and integrity. And we have to have people that care about people. You know, no one's perfect. Everyone's going to make, you know, here and there you might make a decision that might not, you know, you might make a mistake, but as long as you do it with the right intentions and the right character, you can't do wrong that way. But, you know, my background, I've you know, since Brockton High, right out of high school, Brockton High, 1995, the best year ever at Brockton High School, just so everybody out there knows. So right out of high school, I worked for the YMCA, and I was it was Brockton Housing Authorities. I worked at the Crescent Street and the Hill Street developments. I had a good job there, youth activities coordinator. And you know, during that time, I was doing a lot of volunteer coaching. I coached T-ball and then baseball at Eastside Improvement. I coached travel basketball. I coached basketball at the YMCA. I coached basketball for, it used to be called Hancock Basketball League, but now it's called Brockton Community Basketball League.
Yeah.
From there, I went to the YMCA as a youth counselor, and I coordinated the basketball program. Then from there, I went to the Boys and Girls Club, and I started out as the assistant sports and recreations director, and then I got promoted to be the director of the sports and fitness and recreation program. For the past 10 years, I've been a general manager for 2 Fortune 500 companies, and you know, currently a general manager and a district store trainer for a Fortune 500 company. I do feel that that's a skill. You know, being a mayor to me is about managing people. That's a strength of mine, is to manage people and to surround myself with the right people to get the job done. You know, I firmly believe you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. You just have to be smart enough to surround yourself with the people that you can get the answers from and that have the right integrity. Again, integrity is a big thing to me, especially when you want to be a public servant, an elected official. You know, I don't like the term politician. I don't. I like the term public servants, and especially at the city level, we live near each other. You know, these are your neighbors. These are people you see on a day-to-day basis. You have to care about people. You have to look at, you know, the health and well-being of the people that you're to represent. And again, I don't feel that that's what we're getting right now. I strongly believe that's not what we're getting. It's not even fair. And, you know, that's why I decided to run. You know, my wife and my kids said, this is what I'm supposed to do. And they fully support me. The rest of my family fully support me. And I know in my heart it's right. And I have a great, an incredible campaign team. And we're having a lot of fun just going out meeting residents. We probably had a couple thousand houses in the past week and a half. And I look forward to meeting everybody. I mean, I want to meet everybody.
Great. Well, I had the pleasure of meeting you several years ago. If you recall, we both ran for councilor at large, and I was very impressed with you back then. You're a very articulate young man at the time compared to me. You mentioned you graduated 95. Did you say? I was the first graduating class in 71 up the new high school. But time flies when you're having fun. But again, I was very impressed, a lot like me and Ron, who ran for mayor a couple times. I've run for my share of office. You speak from your heart, and I've been following your career over the years, and you're a community activist like we are also. We want to see what's best for the city. I see you volunteer a lot. You clean up the parks, the playgrounds, unity in the community. You participate in some marches against violence. Also, you recently did a car wash where you donated fans to the elderly at the high rises, and with this weather, God only knows they need them. So we admire you for your community activism, and we wish you the best of luck. And now let's talk about some specific items, and please feel free to involve your Team Tagger members that are with you, your legal counsel, who spent about 25 years, I believe, with Bill O'Malley, the Plymouth County District Attorney.
25 and a half.
And then you worked for the Deval Patrick administration, our former governor.
Yes, with
And
the
you-
sex offender registry.
Right. Did you want to say anything else?
Oh, just I
didn't mean
want
cut you
to
off.
back up just a second about the car wash.
Yeah.
That was initiated by a young lady, Jessica Alger. I want to make sure I give her the credit because I'm just there to help.
Right.
You know, she was trying this as a young woman who's 14 years old, middle school student who takes pride in her city and wants to help. And she was looking for a way to do that. And, you know, we came up with the idea. We sat down with her family. You know, this is the direction we want to go, raise money to acquire fans for the elderly at some of the elderly towers in Brockton. So I just want to make sure I give her the full credit. I was just there to wash cars. That's really, you know, but I think we need to recognize the good things our youth do.
Sure.
Because as soon as they do something negative, it's all over the place. But we don't recognize the good things they do. And we have a lot of good youth, a lot of wonderful, positive young people.
We do. And good, diverse background to our community. And
Yes.
as the old adage is, there's no I in team, and you're only as good as the team around you. And you have some pretty qualified people with you tonight. Let's start off with a recent meeting, the City Council, when our CFO, John Condon, came before the council this last Monday night. And the mayor also is looking for $13 million to upgrade some equipment, some supplies, trucks, and they even break it down, I believe, for $250,000 for a small item here that I just read over that escapes me right now.
But a copy or a printer?
Yeah, copy or a printer, you're right.
It's a pretty good copy or printer.
And now, Mr. Condon, as he usually does with his scare tactics, is backing up the mayor, and the mayor's saying it's up to the city council what direction they want to pursue to come up with this funding. Now, I find it coincidental that they just, the council voted to remove $6.3 million from the annual D-cell funding. So now Mr. Condon's threatening, and I think he's doing it because he's trying to pressure them to put that back in, but now he's mentioning a Proposition 2.5 override earmarked for this $13 million to upgrade our supplies and water pipes, etc. Now, in the past, the city has tried unsuccessfully several times to override 2.5. 2.5 is a state law where you're limited to 2.5% of the assessed market values of all the properties The combined total value of properties right now, commercial, industrial, residential, is about 5.4 billion. All 3 times it failed on a referendum. It has to go out to the voters. The first time was earmarked for more education funds, the second time for public safety, and I do not recall what the third time was, but Council President Iannieri said that he didn't think that was a good idea, and he said it wasn't successful in the past, and Mr. Condon is now saying that he will not certify a portion of the budget if they don't do that. Ron, do you want to, before we turn it over to them, what's your comment to that? You've been around a long time, and you've seen Mr. Condon's scare tactics.
Oh, yeah, that's all it is. I mean, it always seems when we need $1 million here, $1 million there, he comes up with that money. I still think we should have a total and complete audit of the finance department, because I think there's a lot more money there than Mr. Condon's telling you. I've been
Right.
saying that for years. I've asked the city council year after year to do that. Nope, they
Okay.
won't do it.
So-
They won't do it, but like you say, it's just a scare tactic. That's all it is.
Right, let's turn it directly to the candidate for mayor. Jacob, if you'd be kind enough, what's your opinion on this 13 million, and do you have some ideas how we could come up with the funding if we in fact really need it?
I definitely have some ideas about where we can acquire funds for a lot of the things that Mr. Condon and Mayor Carpenter are asking for. But I do want to explain, because I do believe there's a lot of smoke and mirrors and a lot of language here that the voter may not understand. And again, I'm learning a lot myself. But again, this is why I surround myself with the people that can help us articulate it in a way that the average voter can understand exactly what they're trying to do. So that's why I would like to see if I can introduce, our financial advisor, Milton Strumpf, and he can just explain again what Prop 2.5 is, and what the override means, and then we can speak about
Maybe
just
some
a
of
few
the
ways.
legalities of the
Yeah.
contract as well, and how we can get out of the contract. It's cost us already about $45 million to fund a plant we're not really utilizing the water as
Yeah.
a secondary backup.
So the thing with the Prop 2.5 is the Proposition 2.5 limits how much they can increase the taxes on the people who have property in the city.
Right.
And Prop 2.5 override basically is giving them permission to do more and to take more money out of the citizens' pockets
Right.
in order to fund these various things that they say we need to fund. Some of the stuff that's on that budget that they want to fund, I agree with. We do need, one of the things was they need a new fire truck in the city of Brockton because the one that they have is not working properly. And that's a $1.4 million item. But, I don't think we need to raise taxes in order to do that. We need to, budget our spending a little better.
Right.
And that's, I agree that one of the things we need to do is a complete financial audit of the city's finances, because I am convinced there is a lot of money out there that we're not being told we have that we do have, and it is available if we go after it and use it.
Right.
One of the things that I know that they do consistently with the budget is, whenever they have extra money in the budget, they kind of put it to a side to, kind of keep it in reserve for themselves for, we need to do this. Oh, we need to come up with this amount of money. Let's pull from this thing.
Right.
And I know they shoved a lot of money into the retirement funds,
Right.
which they didn't need to do.
We refer to that as fiscal shell games, and we've been following Mr. Condon for a number of years, and we
Yeah.
know exactly what he does year in
I-
and year
I-
out. But
I-
for some reason, the council backs him up, and I don't know if they don't understand what he's doing, or they just go along to get along.
I think in a lot of cases, it's a matter of there's a lack of courage to challenge him on these things.
Okay.
That's the thing. He's a city employee. He is a city employee. He works for the mayor. He works for the city. He needs to tell, this is the job you need to do. I'll take your advice under advisement. But at the end of the day, you need strong people to listen, this is what you need to do.
Right.
In that statement in the enterprise that he won't certify a certain portion, you work. This is your job. You're going to do what
Right,
we need to
right.
do to get this done.
Right, and interesting enough, Brocktonians for Limited Taxation, which is a spin-off, actually, we founded the group, Ron and myself were co-founders with a few other individuals, And it's a spin-off of Citizens for Limited Taxation. We actually had Chip Faulkner on one of our shows, who was Barbara Anderson's right-hand person. And one of the reasons that we backed Mayor Carpenter 2 years ago is he vowed to us not to go up on any new taxes. Well, he broke his promise twice. He went up a small amount last year for $500,000 to pay for the legal fees with the power plant suit, which, by the way, he's a proponent of the power plant.
We also went up on the assessment values, correct?
Oh, yeah, that wasn't his doing. The assessed values is different ballgame. The state helps set those values.
Could I make a statement
Sure.
on that? If they went up in the assessed values, which I believe, the city raked in another $2.5 million
Right,
from that. Now, if he didn't
Right.
want to, that's a tax increase. Whether you want to admit it or not, it's a tax increase. And if he didn't want to raise the taxes, he should have dropped the tax rate down to reimburse the people that $2.5 million.
right.
But he didn't. That's a tax increase.
Absolutely.
I had
yeah.
to talk with a city official.
Anytime they go up on your taxes,
And he said,
regardless.
oh, that's not a tax increase. He says, are you paying more taxes or less taxes?
Right.
So I'm paying more taxes. That's a tax increase.
Right.
When you're
Yeah.
paying more, that's an increase.
Absolutely,
So
seem
absolutely.
he should have knocked the tax
Right,
rate
but
down.
in addition, then they factor in new growth from new businesses as well, increased assessments that leads to increased revenues, but in addition now, he's calling for a 2.5% increase in the budget as well through raising our tax rates. We already have one of the highest tax rates in the Commonwealth of Mass, both residential and commercial.
Yeah.
I mean, our residential taxes, I believe, over $18 per thousand. Our commercials over $33 per thousand. And our community cannot sustain that any longer. And we have one of the poorest communities as far as average family income. So let's shift gears a little and let's get Team Tagger's legal advisor on to make a comment on maybe some of these contracts, like the D-Cell contract, the Stonehill contract. We keep hearing time and time again that ironclad contracts we can't get out of.
I want to mention, so last election, this desalinization contract. So I was looking it over, and again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm looking it over. So I speak to, I developed a pretty good relationship with former Mayor Balzotti. So I was at City Hall and I asked her, I said, I don't understand why we're in this.
Right.
So she explained that the state mandated that we have a backup water source. And I said, I just don't get it. This doesn't seem like a good deal for the city. And she said, it's not a good deal for the city, but it's what we had to do at the time. Mm-hmm. So I said, we need to get out of this deal. And she said, I don't think we can. That's the advice we're getting. And I said, listen, you can get out of a deal with God, out of contract with God. She said, what do you mean? I said, people get divorced. Under God, you can get, that's a contract.
Right.
Why can't we get out of this deal? So I don't know if she just wasn't getting legal advice. Again, this is something, the desalinization plant, that I strongly believe that we can get out of. I do want to commend Moises Rodriguez for suggesting and putting forward that we hold that money and hold that money back from the Aquaria. If anyone watched that city council meeting, it was a ridiculous when Aquaria finally showed up after 16 months. When they finally showed up, it was a ridiculous. I can't believe these people are in business, the way they handled themselves and the way they carried themselves. But again, it takes courage to do these things. If you're
Right.
being told one thing, by all rights, you should respect the opinions of the people you're surrounded with, but you have to make decisions. And if you think something's wrong, you think it's wrong. And I strongly believe that 6.3 million we could use, the city definitely could use, and we can get out of it. They've breached it. And again, this is why I have, my legal counsel, who I've known for over 20 years. I have the full belief in, the advice that she gives me. If I felt she was wrong, I'd say, I'd go a different way, but I believe she's correct. And I would love, for her to be able to speak on it and just be able to articulate that as well about the desalinization contract.
Mm-hmm.
So, sure, for the viewers, any contract that you have is simply that, it's a contract, and it comes under contract law, and the contract is written with all the conditions of it. This particular contract that we have, first of all, it was signed in 2002, and they never even went operational till 2008. that probably was a breach in and of itself because it was supposed to be up and running long before then. Putting that aside, it's history. The next thing is that they were required under the contract to do marketing in order to lessen our burden of paying that $6.3 million. That has not been shown to happen. That was part of the subject of the hearing the other night where they failed to put it forth. Now that's a portion of the contract that's required. If in fact under a simple contract, this contract falls right under it and it specifically says, if a person, the Aquaria does not meet any of the conditions, and they name the conditions that can be, and there's a number of them, but this marketing was a shall. Whenever it's a shall, it means they have to do it. If they haven't done it, it's a breach. And then you go forward with the contract provisions that allows you to move forward and say, you've breached it. Now we want to have a discussion about the breach and a default on the contract, which results in the ability to terminate. So all of that is there. It just requires taking those steps and not sitting on your hands from 2008 when they were already in breach and allowing it to go on and on and on. Now, the city council is starting to step up, but it's got to happen. It has to happen because that's not the only breach. There's other breaches that also exist. The capacity of the plant is required to be at a certain capacity. I'm not going to bore people with numbers, but they are not at the capacity that they need to be at currently. And next year, the breach of the capacity is going to be even larger, and it grows and grows every single year. That's yet another breach. So when there's a breach, again, the contract provides you go after the breach. If you don't like it, if you're not going to accept it, you counter it, you bring it forward, assess and determine that it's a default, and if it's a default, then the contract is terminated. So that is the easiest way to explain it to the viewers. It's more complicated, obviously, in the legal arena. And I understand people saying, well, they're getting different opinions. Well, that's exactly what happens in every court case. And we say to people when they talk about court, court is just the place that you go when you can't resolve your differences outside of court. That's what court is. And in each court proceeding, there are two sides. One lawyer who has a good faith argument for one view, and another who has a good faith argument for the opposing view. You go to court, each of them puts their views forth, and either judge or jury decides that. That is just a normal procedure that will oftentimes happen with contracts, but you have to start the process. You can't just sit on your hands and say, oh gee, we can't get out of it, it's ironclad. No, it's not. When there's a breach, you can move forward, you move forward to default, and move forward to termination. If there's an argument about the termination, you can't agree with that problem being solved outside of court, then you would have to look to the courts to decide it. But that is really the basics of it. In this particular case, Aquaria has, in my opinion, breached innumerable times in regards to that contract. And now is the time for us to say the end.
Great.
Well, I know that there's other breaches in the contract, but I have to say, they hired an attorney from Newburyport by the name of Lisa Mead to look over the contract. And she rendered an opinion, and I have that opinion. In that opinion, she said that they did not breach the Procurement Act. She said they didn't violate the Procurement Act, which they did, because they never put it out to bid. Now, I don't know if they didn't tell her or what, but I have a letter from former DPW Commissioner Michael Thorson stating that they have no record of any bids being put out. So that's another way, but now they're not giving this Lisa Mead apparently not giving her all the information.
And then CFO actually went on record one council meeting, said they ran full capacity, 3.5 million gallons of water a day for a 30-day period, when in essence we had the water commission report. They only ran less than 50% capacity. So there's some serious issues, and we get upset when we hear our council president, Dennis Ianieri, said that he's afraid that he's going to get sued. But they have no shame to jack up our water rates 35% over the next 4 years to pay for this decel funding, which, by the way, is 37.5% of the $17 million water enterprise account. So we have about 5 minutes left. So let's talk a little bit of some of the other issues, crime, what you have in mind to help lower our crime rate. As we all know, we had a startling report that Brockton has now moved up to the second most dangerous violent crime city in the Commonwealth of Mass. Let's talk a little bit about that, and then in closing, I want you to look right into the camera and tell the people why they should vote for Jacob L. Taggart Jr. You already impressed me with your Team Taggart members, and you're speaking from your heart. And I want the camera to get a close-up of his shirts, because this man has the most colorful shirts of any candidate. I mean, they stand out, nice blues and nice, what would you describe that? Sort of like
It's like a
peach?
salmon,
yeah,
coral.
Yeah, salmon. I like that. I see that a lot
Sounds
down
nice,
in
right?
Newport, Rhode Island. So why don't you talk a little bit about crime? That's a big issue. And then, you face the camera, and let's hear why people should elect Jacob L. Taggart Jr. as our next mayor.
So what you're going to hear the next couple of months from every candidate, that's, any candidate for mayor and as well as city council, everyone's going to tell you they're firmly committed to public safety. Public safety is not just police, it's also our firefighters. And my wife and I were actually, and I wanted to make sure I mentioned this just from, Condon, what Condon was asking for. So my wife and I toured Station 1. And I want to say the guys, the firefighters that were there, even with dealing some of the issues they're dealing with, buildings and equipment, they had the most pride. They were so proud to work in Brockton. So I just want to make sure I say that. So, we hear they need equipment, which we do need equipment. And I asked them, I said, what is the biggest priority to you right now? He said, well, we need manpower. I said, equipment or manpower? So we all, again, we have to prioritize, but I said, we need manpower. And I said, can you guys explain? Because again, I don't understand, I'm trying to learn. They said, right now we're operating each truck with three men or women on a truck. And I guess it's supposed to be 4 on the truck. One person operates the hydrant, the hose, and then you're supposed to have 2 or 3 that, go into the fire. Right now, they're operating a man down. So I want people to understand this dynamic. One of these human beings, these firefighters who are trying to protect people,
Right.
okay, trying to save lives, are endangering their life. They're already going into a dangerous situation as it is. We have a lot of 3-family multi-story buildings in the city. So they go up to one of these, 3-story buildings, they're running up with all this equipment.
Right.
What if one of these guys gets hurt and there's nobody to help them and they can't go home to their family? But I just want to make sure, okay, again, I explained public safety, fire, and police. I also,
we get about 2 minutes left, so.
Yeah, I just want to finish this part.
Yeah, finish the part,
So,
why they should vote for
We
you.
need public safety, and we also need education for our youth. Police are a deterrent and a reactionary tool. So we definitely need more police. We all know we're down. But we also need educational opportunities for our kids. We need to stop taking away programs for our young people. We need to give them choices. Why people should vote for me, other than the fact that my wife says to vote for me,
It's a good enough reason alone,
that's good
right
enough
there.
for me. I've born and raised Brockton. I'm not a transplant. And again, I don't have any problems with anybody that's not from Brockton. I know Brockton. People will say you're new to politics. Guess what? That may be true. I'm not new to Brockton. I'm a veteran when it comes to Brockton. Almost
Right.
40 years of Brockton experience. That's what I have.
Right.
I don't have any political connections. The only connections I have in this city are the connections to the people of this city.
Right.
And you need someone like that to shake things up.
Excellent.
Change is not what we got last election. You got the same politics as usual. To change that, you need to have a not usual politician, and that's me.
And because of those very words, we were happy, Brocktonians for Limited Taxation, endorse you right out of the gate. We wish you well in the primary, and once the primary is over and done with, we'll love to have you back on the show, and I'm sure we'll see you in some of the debates. And we want to thank you for coming on, and thank your Team Taggart members as well, and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The one thing that impressed me the most is that you're gonna surround yourself with the best people.
Yes.
Because no one person has all the answers. It's all the best people around you where you get the answers.
Okay, well,
So far, this is looking pretty good.
thanks again for joining us, folks, and tonight was our guest Jacob L. Taggart Jr. for Mayor of Brockton.